Okay, I will call to order the Town of Groton Public Safety Committee meeting. It is a special meeting. It is 4:34 p.m. In attendance are Chair Jill Russ, Councilor Roscoe Merritt, and Councilor Adam Pacino. Is there any communications that anyone would like to bring up?
I have none.
Okay. All right, then we will move on to approval of minutes. I would take a motion to approve the August 22nd, 2023 special meeting minutes.
Second.
Oh, I need a motion.
Oh, I motion.
Motion made by Councilor Pacino. Do you want to second the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Merritt. Are there any corrections to the minutes? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes 3-0. Right, our first order of business is item number 2024-92 road sign visibility. This was a referral made in our last meeting by Councilor Gajewski. I did call Councilor Gajewski to get some clarification because I wasn't sure what he was meaning by the fact that the signs weren't visible. Was it that there were trees in the way? Was it that they weren't reflective enough? And what he said in clarification was that his concern is for crosswalks in Mystic. So, Director Hanover, I don't know if this is something that you can address. Or Chief Pizarro, I don't know who this was.
Sure. The crosswalks in downtown Mystic, there is a bunch of mid-block crosswalks, which means they're not at an intersection. So those walks are required to have a, pedestrian crosswalk with an arrow down to it sign. And they're all there in Mystic. So I'm not sure exactly what the concern is. I mean, they're, in the sidewalk, up at the standard height. So they're above the cars that are parked there.
One of the things that he mentioned was that there was a concern about not being able to see pedestrians behind cars.
Okay. At the crosswalks, we do have the bump outs in downtown Mystic. So it brings the pedestrians right out to, the edge of the travel lane to try to make them more visible to motorists. And, I know myself driving down there, people tend to go slow. You're always looking for people because it's a, high pedestrian area and there's going to be people walking out down there, even people that, come out between the cars that that are not at a crosswalk. You're looking for those people as well. So
Councilor Merritt,
I'm not sure if there's anything more that we or DOT could do.
I have long looked at the crosswalks on Route 1 through Paquonic Bridge in the shopping center area, and my observations show that there are a lot of people, they stand behind signs and telephone poles, and then they dart out into the road. I understand there's a new rule where you stand out into the road, you wave your hand in the traffic coming towards you, indicating that you want to cross, and people are supposed to honor that motion. I believe that's the rule.
We have to yield, you have to yield right away to a pedestrian.
I understand, but they're supposed to step out and give you notice that they want to cross the road. A lot of them just stand there observing traffic. They don't want to cross the road, and they hide behind telephone poles, etc. The lighting at the crosswalks is poor in a lot of areas. We could refer this to another time with some more more observation, perhaps.
I can talk specifically towards Mystic, which if I'm correct, that's what
really
the start.
congested.
So to my knowledge, we've only had 2 pedestrian accidents, certainly in my tenure here as the chief. One was a result of a DUI, which led to prosecution and an arrest. The second one was associated with the Mystic Art Festival. I don't know of any others. Can you recall any, Captain B? In Mystic itself?
Mystic itself? Not that I can off the top of my head, nothing was serious.
Yeah. And that's not to undermine, certainly we want to prevent this, right? We want to make sure that this doesn't happen. So any signage that goes out there, because these are all state roads that we're talking about, Paquonic Bridge, as well as any of the roads in Mystic, Water Street and West Main, all state in 215. all state roads, which means anything that we do has to go through DOT. We can recommend things, myself and the town manager as a traffic authority. But as a local traffic authority, we don't have the authority to enact anything. We only have the authority to maybe bring it to the attention of the state. To that end, I guess it was right before Christmas. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. We did meet with T2, which is a component of UConn, which does an analysis of traffic and not just traffic, but parking, things of that nature. We had a meeting. I don't know if the town manager recalls when that was, but it was pretty robust.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty robust
Good
meeting to
news.
discuss these issues. You know, and they were going to come back with some recommendations. We haven't received those yet, but I know they were doing a pretty detailed analysis.
Was that specifically for Mystic or just all of Groton?
It primarily Mystic, but it was a kind of a holistic approach, looking at traffic and pedestrian safety, as well as, you know, we have an ongoing parking issue, trying to have an objective look at that. Not just the same old people looking at it like we have,
Mhm.
but to get a little bit of an outsider's perspective, and they seem to be pretty adept at that.
Do you have any idea when that's going to come back?
I'll follow up with them. I haven't gotten any correspondence with them in the last several weeks, but you know, the holidays, so maybe they did say it would take a little time to produce it.
Okay,
Chair Russ?
yes.
Just to mention, Councilor Merritt's correct. There's a newer law about flagging people down, but it might be maybe take on some education of the public, get that put out. I mean, I doubt that's out there that much until you mentioned it. I looked at it a few years ago and that wasn't the case, so it is now, so.
And in
if we work-
Mystic, there's
yeah.
a lot of out-of-staters
Yeah.
too. They might not be aware of that.
Mm,
How are you gonna address it for educating the public? I have no clue right now.
And, you know, and we might need some help from like the Mystic Chamber, who a lot of the people subscribe to their, you know, go to their Facebook, go to everything. So there might be some ways to at least hit some of the people.
I personally, as an afterthought, would like to see more lighting or direct lighting on the crosswalks themselves at the beginning from one side of the road to the other. And like I said, a lot of them have been put behind signs, behind telephone poles. And people just, as human nature, they just hang out in those spots and then they just dart without even looking half the time. They're not even looking at the traffic coming one way or the other. They're just straightforward, right ahead, hit me and I'll sue you. Yeah, if you're still alive.
Well, there's still, pedestrians do have to exercise due care.
Yeah.
So that's a component of the law as well. They can't
Yep.
just jump out in front of cars. That's, you know, and the crosswalks are there for a reason. That's why we want
Yep.
people to utilize them.
I'd rather not
But
see
sure.
anybody hurt though, and it just, that's the nature of it.
Sure. No, agreed.
Can we, you mentioned that we have to make requests to DOT. Can we request signage explaining that new requirement to raise your hand, make yourself be known before you cross the street?
Well, it probably wouldn't be signage because you have
Yeah.
particular rules on what can be signage. It'd have to be an educational campaign.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
and there's gonna be an expense to any signage, and I
absolutely.
like to
Well,
stay in mind of that too, because there's plenty of signs out there. I'm not a
True.
proponent of signs.
In the referral, you'll know, you know, it talks about MUTCD, the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and that when we do something as a traffic authority, we have to comply with that. Certainly when Public Works and puts something out there, it has to be in compliance with MUTCD. So, but yeah, certainly some educational component. Maybe we can put together something on our Facebook page to kind of educate people on that and ask for the similar efforts at other levels.
If, in the next, before the next meeting, if you know of any places where you see a particular issue, we could compile that though and ask the DOT to look into that and what could be done to improve the situation at those spots.
One thing that I noted, it's funny, you go on vacation and the things you note now. So I was in Portland, Maine, and we went to cross the road and all you had to do was push a stop or push a button. And it was at a block that was a non-controlled intersection. You push the button and the light flashed at the crosswalk for, I don't even know how much time, enough time for us to just get across. Something like that might be helpful in downtown Mystic, only because there's such a high congestion.
I've seen that in other states. Have you
Yeah.
seen that? Anywhere in
Yeah.
Connecticut?
Those are well, we actually have a couple of Groton now. They're they're called the Rapid Flashing Intensity Beacon or something like that. And it's push button activated. And there's one at Human Services there.
Okay.
The state put that one in as a
Mhm.
pilot project, and I think they put one in up by Applebee's too, if I'm not mistaken, at a mid-block walk. So if you're not at a signalized intersection, you can push a button and the things will flash yellow to tell the driver, hey, somebody's in the intersection
Mhm.
or somebody's in the crosswalk. Another place where that would be very helpful is the one at Central Avenue, because there was a pedestrian fatality there a number of years ago. But I think we talked about this with DOT and with the T2, but down there, there's so many crosswalks and so many pedestrians, the thing would just be flashing nonstop, and
True.
it would not be, a suitable location for that type of device.
Reference to the one at Central Avenue, well, not Central Avenue, but Virginia's Court.
Virginia's, I'm sorry, yes.
That
Correct.
crosswalk is actually, it leads right into the telephone pole I was talking about. And for years, there was a light on that telephone pole, and now the light has gone out. I got a feeling that it was being pursued by the market and not Groton Utilities. It shines into their parking lot, and it would illuminate that side of the crosswalk. But the thing is, I would like to see both sides of any crosswalk adequately illuminated. At least people would see somebody standing there, and from then on, then you've got to understand that, hey, you've got to let the traffic know you want to cross. I mean, it's a two-party issue. Somebody has to get on board here and figure it out. Hey, I want to cross. There's rules for it, and we have to get together on this. We can't just start putting up lights and everything, and there is going to be an expense to some of this.
So I would love to see something, maybe a hybrid of maybe not just push and it immediately goes, but push, but can only go so many times a minute, maybe. I understand the concern, but I think, downtown Portland in the summer is just as crazy or just as busy as downtown Mystic. So hopefully there's something that we could do in downtown Mystic that would be some sort of action on that. So go ahead, sorry.
I spent some time on Bethesda down in Maryland, and almost all of their crosswalks around the hospital are the level of the sidewalk, causing vehicles to have to slow down for this 4-foot wide speed bump.
Raised table.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seemed, and they had the lights too.
Mhm.
But, strictly in downtown Mystic where traffic isn't a high speed, I think that might just make drivers more aware that they're entering into somebody else's domain.
I think the city's considering something like that in front of VB with all the
Mhm.
people crossing there. They're looking at some things like that.
I know that has been addressed before as a concern for snow removal. Do you have any concerns with that, Greg? I realize it's a state road, but
Like a raised table type of thing.
We talk about that with speed humps.
No, I mean, it's doable.
okay,
I mean,
awesome.
I'm sure the state will have an opinion on it.
No.
Okay, so these are my takeaways that I have from this meeting. Look into the T2 report, try to get that back and see what they're recommending. Look into public education for raising your hand to stop traffic. Look into potentially raised tables. Look into the rapid flashing intense beacon. That's intensity beacon. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
And then for us to request specific issues, specific areas of issues. Am I missing anything? Okay. All
I
right.
actually found one of those raised, I guess you call it, what'd you call it, Greg, raised table or?
Mhm.
Yeah, like I told you over at Golden Street and Eugene O'Neill Drive.
Yeah.
It's actually the width of a road. The breadth of it is the width of a road. And it's
Really
right,
can be wide.
it's right in line with Golden Street and it crosses Eugene O'Neill Drive. And it's right in a spot where people used to really put their foot down once they got clear of traffic.
The other thing that we talked about was potentially more lighting at crosswalk areas. So that would be number 6, I guess. Any
And
questions?
you said there was a bulb actually to take out at the one over by the market there, Ross?
The telephone pole at the corner of the crosswalk had a street light shining into the parking lot of Bridge Market.
You think that
And-
the structure, you think that's there just not working right now?
It could be that you can ask, can you,
Can we
get
get the
it up
phone
and
number and
running?
ask them to, yeah,
and see if it's even on their list. It may
Yeah.
have been from an old, to quote a phrase, the good old boy routine.
we can certainly look at it, yeah.
Yeah,
Anybody else have anything on this agenda item? Okay. Moving on to 5.2, which is 2024-93 climate change emergency signage. This was a referral from Counselor Borderline requesting additional signage to be placed in to address public awareness and safety concerns related to flooded roads. Megan, are you here to address this one?
Yeah, I can speak to this a little. I know Director Hanover also received the email. So we had a final public meeting for our downtown Mystic Resiliency Plan. And afterwards, I spoke with the counselor about some of her concerns as it relates to the inundation of roads and making sure that people are aware of roadway flooding and that they stay out of the waters. I mean, since then, we saw the vehicle rescue that had to happen on Gravel Street back on the 13th. We've had a number of stranded vehicles in other places in town, the South Road underpass most notably as well. And so she had followed up via email to myself and Director Hanover you know, was just bringing up the topic perhaps about signage and also the potential of the automated sensors. So there are systems that you can purchase where there are sensors placed, and once a certain inundation level is recognized by a sensor, either lights go off, some of them you can actually put deployable arms, so a barrier goes down, as things that she was interested in potentially being considered for locations in town.
And just generally some more signage, repeated complaints we get, and I feel it myself as you come off Thomas Road and you get all the way down to the underpass, and it's a long ways to go all the way back around to Pequannock. So we'd like to have some signage down there. Probably up by right at Route 1 and South Road too, I would imagine. And I'd like to find out too, we just, Captain B just found out that there were several vehicles in South Road the last few days that had issues. They apparently, the pumps weren't working for the state. And you thought they used to be automated, is that right?
Yeah,
But we
years
don't-
ago, when they redid the project down there, they put an automated pump in. And it's apparently wasn't working.
Can we find out if, you know, if that's been a standing issue, or are they gonna get it automated again?
Yes.
And then there's some thought too of it'd be nice, you know, we see, even if it's, you know, pretty obvious you shouldn't probably go through there, people still do it. It'd be nice to have something showing what, you know, little ruler type thing, something showing what the actual depth is.
Yeah, agreed. Go ahead, Sue.
Well, I just anecdotally, you know, certainly in the last couple of weeks, we've had some significant rainfall and snow, and it's resulted in some flooding. And I just feel the need to share an example where myself and I was in uniform one day, came in we'll just say on Route 1 where there was some flooding, and police cruisers stopped in the middle of the road, lights going, and I had to not jump in front of a car, but go up to a car that was navigating its way around our cruisers to make its way into the water that we were trying to block. So sometimes despite the best efforts of public
Yeah,
officials, folks just, they're so ingrained, and I've got to get from point A to point B, and that's the only way I can get there. And sometimes they just don't understand the signs, don't understand uniformed police officers blocking roads and it was, you know, wasn't a person being difficult. It was just, oh, I didn't realize why you're out here. I said, well, we're out here because there's water right there.
Couple
And that's
times
what we're trying to prevent you from going in it.
South Road, a couple times I've seen when we've had barricades out and people just move them out of the way and
Yeah.
go through.
And we've seen that, and I think you were telling me earlier today that we do have signage on South Road. And at times it does get moved by citizens.
Yes, so we've had, in this last couple storms, we did put the barricades out, and when the officers went back down to check on it, because they got sent down for cars stranded in the water, barricades all had been moved to the sides of the road. So unless you put an officer there 24 hours a day or through the duration of the storm, right, people are still gonna wanna drive, as the chief mentioned, from point A to point B,
Mhm.
no matter what the circumstances are.
So any further warning sign we can put, hey, stupid, stop here?
I don't know if you want to word it that way, but,
We just put an impounded car in the puddle. Just leave it there?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, when they talk to their insurance company about how it happened, I don't know that I'd want to be on the other end of that call.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard of other people be stuck there
Yeah.
and, trucks go by anyway, and
Flood mode.
Counselor
think-
Merritt.
I think for a summation, and not to prolong the discussion any further or any more detail, is the fact that we can put up warning signs and let the people do what they want and suffer what the consequences are. I have experienced, say, at Bluff Point, where a young man drove his car into the water, and the way these cars are built now, he's actually sucking water into the engine, and that's how he was left.
Hmm.
And I did find the vehicle later at a friend's repair shop, and he did have ice and water in his engine. And there's nothing you can do about that. Like the chief said, they're gonna move the signs and drive around, and we can sit here till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning discussing it. We can buy barriers and everything we can do, and they're still gonna get around it. Let it go.
right, for Bucquonic Road over by Sneakers area, did you say you thought that might be a state drain issue there?
Yeah, we're gonna reach out to the state to look if there's something they can do to see if the drain, make sure it's clear. Cause that, I mean, it used to flood once in a while, but now it seems like it's flooding all the time.
Bluff
Yeah.
Point is getting to be an aggravation too. And the way the town GIS map is shaded, the town owns that portion right underneath the overpass up the hill on the other side to the backyard of Amtrak, along with Industrial Drive, etc. But once again, if they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it and just let it happen. It's a high tide level that's causing that problem and a lot of our problems, really, like Thomas Road. I have never seen that high in that cove until this year.
So Director Hanover, I'm sorry, you said that there is a drainage system there that's not working, or there is not a
No, we're
drainage
gonna
system?
have DOT take a look at it, see, to make sure it is working.
There's pumps
Okay,
under the bridge.
I'm
No, this
talking
is
about on
Paquonic
Paquonic
Road,
Road by
yeah.
Sneakers.
Yeah,
I'm not sure about there.
no, this is just be a conventional drainage system, no pumps or.
So a couple of areas that I'm particularly well, first of all, I love on our page 8, I don't know if you've got the same system of numbers. But the top of that has the feet.
Yep.
And I feel like that would be very helpful in a lot of areas. People don't realize how deep it is. And you're right, they get on autopilot. I know, I go down Paquonic Road every day to go to work and I'm just driving and it doesn't look high until suddenly I'm in 2 feet of water. So I feel like these would be inexpensive potentially to put up compared to some of these blockading areas. But then I think about South Road and that bridge underneath, under the bridge. And maybe we need something like this halt location system that lights up and says flooded area, do not pass. And I get people moving blockades. So I mean, obviously this is a decision that we would have to look at the cost and what we can do, but something in very high risk areas, that might not be a bad idea.
So one of the things, just real quick, going back to South Road, and you probably drive by them every day. I think they're like 3x4, maybe 3x5 yellow signs that fold. Those, in my 28 years, 27 and a half years here, I think those are the same signs that I put up all the time. So they're probably to the point where they're so rusty where you can't fold them much anymore. So I was gonna contact DOT to see if there was an alternative replacement for those signs.
And maybe to the town manager's point, since it's such a gap, there's no easy place to turn around. Maybe they post them a little bit further out as well.
Okay.
Or at least a warning sign that say, hey, last chance to turn off before flooding.
if we did ever look at the barricades, you probably needed two on each side because people will weave through otherwise.
Yeah,
I'd like to speak to the drop bars, the automatic drop bars, the fact that they're unmanned. And I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah, I know the Mystic Art Association has it for the parking lot and they're constantly replacing the
Yes.
screws
From people damaging it or just from where?
from people damaging it.
Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I will know, it's my understanding the state is studying the South Road underpass, and they're supposed to actually have a report with recommendations. I think, given that they have a pump system there, they were trying to look at feasibility if there's alternatives or ways to improve that very challenging segment of roadway. So I did reach out to the state a week or two ago asking for an update to see if the study was completed. I have not heard back yet, but I will certainly forward that once I receive that information. I do think, I very much like the idea of increased signage, potentially a halt system. I think it, as the floods get worse, we've been very lucky that thus far people have been able to, they've had tremendous damage to their vehicles, but we haven't had anyone really severely injured, and that could change. Flooding is getting worse, waters are getting higher. And so I'd hate to be in a situation where motorists get stranded and actually can't get out of the car, and the situation becomes even more dire. So at the very least, I do think that the large ruler, the scale. I think part of the challenge of the South Road underpass is that it does dip a lot more than I think you can realize when the water is up, that people perhaps just don't understand. And something that, in conversation with Councilor Bordelon, she mentioned as well that I was thinking about is in Mystic on Gravel Street and Pearl Street and Water Street, a lot of all the locals know that those streets flood. And they always flood, and they do to avoid them and to move cars. But with the expansion in short-term rentals, I know that's a whole other topic. In the summer with the tourism season, we have a lot of people there who don't know that those roads flood. And so not sort of taking advantage of that local institutional knowledge, but thinking of the folks coming to the areas who aren't aware of that vulnerability. So I very much like the idea of recommending, trying to improve the signage at the very least. And seeing, I have no idea how much those automated systems cost, but perhaps just doing some initial looking into what a basic quote for one of those would be so that we know. So that then we could gauge whether it makes sense to invest in a system like that, knowing that we might have to do a lot of continued maintenance on it, trying to figure out if that's something that's feasible for the town to take on or not.
And just to kind of piggyback on Megan's about the signage, the chief was asking about, what signs are he mentioned MUTCD approval. If you look at page 7, it's got all those pictures of nice signs. The only sign on here that's actually approved that we could install is the one that says road may flood, the yellow
Okay.
diamond one. And as well as the ruler on page 8, as you call it, that actually is also an MUTCD approved sign.
Oh.
Okay.
So we could put that one on, and I did reach out to DOT to ask them if they would be, if they would object to the town putting up these signs on state roads, and they said, no, as long as we went through their permit process, we could do that, maintain the signs. They didn't have any issue with them. I agree, probably one at South Road at the underpass there would be nice. I'm sure we'd have to reach out to Amtrak. It is their bridge. If we attach something to it, they have to give us permission of some sort. But yeah, we could, put those gauges on some of the other, right at where it floods on the side of the road.
And for further away from that South Road, obviously further away, we don't want just the road may flood. Maybe more of those flip down type of things that says it is flooded.
You said you'd contact.
I think you were talking about visitors coming. We also have such a high influx of military coming and going that these are people who don't know where our roads flood. I mean, those of us who've been here 20 years, we know that Pequannock Road floods every time.
Yeah.
We know not to go under South Road, but if you've only been here, stationed here for a month,
Sure.
no idea. So,
Yeah.
okay, so my takeaways on this.
Mhm.
Look at, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
I have, a question is, let's say we put all the signs up and all the barriers we have. And it's looking great. People go around them, get stuck in the water. Can we find them? Can we ticket them? Are we charge them for services that we have to render to save them?
You know, I'm just shooting from the hip here, but I think the short answer is probably not.
I don't like that answer.
You know, I'm trying to think through my, you know, knowledge of Title 14 and all the statutes that are associated with it. I not at the risk of being crude, I mean, if we could find people for making dumb decisions at times, that I think the coffers of the state would be pretty, you know, pretty well, you know, funded, but,
I would have funded most of it.
yeah, I don't, I mean, unless there's reckless disregard, you know, that reckless, wanton negligent disregard, you know, there may be some way to recoup it that way, but,
There is the one general statute, but they'd have to be DOT approved sign 14298.
yeah, failure to obey STC signs and markings, but I don't know that necessarily
Right,
these would
they'd have to be
qualify for
approved
this.
signs. So.
No,
A good example of what that is people try to use the cut through on the Gold Star Bridge. A lot of times we write fines for that because it says emergency and authorized vehicles only. People cut through there, they're not an emergency or authorized vehicle.
Gotcha.
So but
now,
Yeah.
Captain B, when you put out the weather alerts when rain and things are coming, could we put out like a pat thing that says, as a reminder, these roads tend to be, tend to flood and be subject to flooding, keep an eye out for it?
I'm sorry, what was that?
We put a lot of weather alerts out, Captain B, when any bad weather's coming, but if we could have just a set thing to go that we could put out on social media and say, hey, as a reminder, these roads tend to flood, please keep an eye out, avoid if possible, that type of thing.
if I may also, on that note, we are expanding or in the process of working with, company trying to expand our social media footprint, enable real-time communications a little bit more effectively. Our social media is really managed by one person right now who may or may not be on duty at the time. But we're trying to establish something through a company we've been working with. So that the shift commander, for the dispatcher say, hey, you know, Sergeant, Lieutenant, this road's flooded, it's closed down right now. We can maybe be a little bit more timely in putting that out. We're not there yet, but that's something we're working towards. That might be a little bit more public messaging and the ability for people in town to access that information quickly, maybe on the horizon.
And then not just, hey, they may be, we can actually say then
Yep.
this is flooded, right?
And I'm wondering too, I like the topic of public education that we spoke about a little bit on the previous agenda item, but with this, I'm not sure how much you could put on blast, but we know of 4 vehicles that had to get towed out of floodwaters in the last 7 days. So maybe some messaging around like, this is what you risk when you drive into waters, right? It's the whole turnaround, don't drown. If that's not convincing you, engine failure, water and ice intake in your systems, and maybe letting people know like this is a really big issue, and here are the sorts of things that you're risking when you do this. Not to mention the fact you're putting our first responders at risk.
Can you write that down? What you just said? That was
Yeah.
pretty effective.
Yeah.
It's on recording.
37 minutes into the recording.
I lost my train of thought. It was there. I just took a left turn.
So I'm sure, like
It'll come
what
back.
happened in the last storm, I'm sure people don't know you can actually like have water all the way up to your windows.
That is scary.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is the perfect space for one of those rulers,
Mm.
because if you see that is 4 feet down,
Maybe Bluff Point also.
Bluff Point definitely.
River
Yeah.
Road, is that, we're
Alright.
getting problems there now too.
Yeah. Any
They
place
towed
like
a-
that.
They towed cars out of there and, what happens is the tide is coming in and filling in, and they've got a poor drainage system there that goes out to the river. And it's got a valve on the end of the pipe that's actually a soft piece of rubber vertically, and I think it's vertical in it. It closes and opens with pressure. But now with the increase in tide, that's kind of been overused. But still, the town, like I said, from the GIS map that I read, if it's correct, the shaded area for that area is owned by the town and the responsibility of the town. But the state is working with it to clean it out and keep it clean the
I-
best they can.
I don't think it's actually owned by the town. I think it's mislabeled. You know, it's come up before a few years back. I think there's no clear ownership.
Right, because the shaded area
Mhm.
goes off three ways at the end of Depot Road. It's the same color as Depot Road. All the way down to the left is Industrial Drive, all the way down. Straight ahead goes into Amtrak's gate. And to the right goes down underneath the railroad trestle and up to the left to Amtrak's backyard, which is, they require that so they can get to it because they're not allowed to cross their tracks.
Council Pacino, did you remember? what you
I
wanted?
did remember. I use Waze a lot. And I know on Waze that I can close a road or say it's closed because of whatever, a tree or on it, something like that. Not sure if Google Maps does the same thing. But if we're talking about social media, I mean, I understand that person may or may not be on at that time, but any officer who has Waze in their phone might be able to shut that down too.
Yeah, we get into some other things with that though.
Gotcha.
Like
But in any
explain to you
case,
offline.
because most people who are from out of town and don't live
Sure.
around here normally, they're gonna use Waze to get around.
Right,
Or
right.
Google Maps, some sort of.
I don't think
Uh,
Google Maps does it like Waze though. I haven't seen any other of those apps that does the same as Waze.
I like how Waze does it.
Yeah.
But, you know, if
One
you're using
map
it,
where
I
the
use
road's
Waze,
been
I
closed for
use
like
Waze
3
because of it,
days.
so yeah.
It wasn't
Exactly.
closed. But it's still up on the internet as being closed.
Yeah, and I think much like, the old term garbage in, garbage out, people put, anybody can put stuff in there and it
You're
can be accurate, inaccurate, and like your point exactly, if they don't take it out, this road's closed,
It
I wouldn't
falls
want to
off
see the
eventually, I
town
believe.
being on the hook for, I didn't,
Yeah.
I went through this way, I got into an accident. If I knew that road was open, I would have gone, but I think it.
I'm in a hurry. I'm gonna report every road on my way to work is
Yeah, yeah.
closed.
Might be tough.
All right, this is my takeaway. Director Hanover is going to request DOT to look at replacing signs on South Road, perhaps as far back as Route 1 in South Road and Thomas Road in South Road, and look at flip down signs for that area. I think this is a Director Hanover. Also, looking at the automated pump on South Road that's not working. Okay, that's Captain B. Okay.
And if we
Okay.
hear the results of the study, Megan can let us know.
Signage, depth. We're gonna look at putting depth signage in different areas, both the downtown, Mystic and also South Road, Bluff Point, that area.
Anywhere else we can think of too, or be relevant.
Reach out to the state regarding drainage at Pequonic Road near Sneakers. Megan is going to find out whenever we get the state study of South Road Underpass. Whenever that comes out, she'll forward that. And Greg will look into gauges under South Road. I have South Road at underpass gauges when it floods. Does that make any sense?
Maybe are you talking about those rulers?
No, like a automatic gauge, I think was what was talked about. No? Okay,
I
could say
totally
that's
against
probably-
those. First of all, they're unmanned.
let me
Well,
get down.
in
let
the
me-
study, we'll just see what the study they do
Yeah.
shows anyways. Yeah.
And then, hold on, let me finish. We're looking at increasing social media contact regarding flooding and getting out a public information blast regarding the dangers of driving into flooded areas. Did I miss anything? Okay. Awesome, thank
You
you.
know, if you're ever in a pinch too, I of course have access, I put out stuff on the town's proper Facebook, so I can always get stuff out, if you let me know at off hours, so,
Moving on.
and on our website.
I think you just have to sometimes just let people go their course and give them adequate warning, and there's not much else you can do after that. And as far as the first responders go, yeah, there's a point there, but in the end, it's the wrecker that's got to pull the car out of the road. And that's going to take time, and you just slow down. It's not a big deal. The road's blocked. You can't do anything until it's unblocked.
Okay, We are moving on to new business 2024-94 all-terrain vehicle confiscation ordinance. This was, I think you're probably,
I mean, yeah, I don't think we need Megan or Greg.
Or
at this
Greg,
point,
thank you both for being here.
Yeah.
We'll always try to schedule meetings. It's really good.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Thanks, Greg. Okay, so former Counselor Edward Jacome submitted a referral to the Town Council in October 2023 as a result of an increase of all-terrain vehicle takeovers in local cities and town streets. As the town has seen firsthand, this caused a great safety concern to the public. The committee will be discussing what actions can be implemented to discourage this behavior in the town of Groton, including a possible ATV confiscation ordinance. All right, Chief and Captain B.
Yeah, so I have reviewed the proposal as well as the submitted ordinances from other municipalities to look at. Not against this at all. However, I just want to make sure whatever we utilize here is certainly something that's got some good legal foundation behind it to make sure that the town attorneys are comfortable with it.
To just point out, the Wyndham one was actually drafted by our town attorneys for them.
Sure. Yeah, I looked at some of the components of this and some of the things in discussing with staff members at the police department. You know, we would want to incorporate some type of storage fees into this for items that we take into our custody, but there is a mechanism already where, you know, where we can see vehicle under certain conditions and these would qualify under that. And, or if it's removed from a vehicle, we remove for a roadway, we take that vehicle, the ATV, the dirt bike, and it's seized in relation to an incident, or the officer directs a wrecker to remove it and bring it back to theirs. There's usually a storage fee associated with that they have to pay in order to get their own property back. What I don't want is to have something where it's the police department's taking something into custody and remming it or taking it into our possession without the legal basis for that, and making sure that you know, there's a due process procedure that if someone does have their vehicle seized, that they're able to, if they've been provided with due process and able to get it back. I just don't want it. I read something somewhere in maybe one of these others that basically said, once the police have it, you know, we've got it and that's it. I don't know that that's legally sufficient. But I do believe this is in response to certainly the tragic fatal accident that we had back in August. And I will tell you, in that case, we were able to seize one vehicle, one dirt bike. Certainly, if they're not supposed to be operated in the town's roads, then we're going to do that. We're going to take enforcement action. You know, the component of that that's most important is being able to identify the operator, making sure that the vehicle does stop, that we do that safely. You know, we're not going to get into a position where our officers are pursuing under conditions that they're not supposed to pursue in order to apprehend and seize a vehicle. You know, if they come across the vehicle and it's part of their continuing investigation, that's a different story. But certainly any punitive action that would be taken on the part of the town or the courts for that matter certainly needs to be done under some very strict legal guidelines and stuff that we would educate our officers on. But I understand why this was put out there. And again, not overly, you know, not going to get a lot of pushback from the police department, but we just want to make sure that if it were to be enacted, this ordinance, that it's done in a way that is collaborative with the department to make sure that we're doing the right things.
I just want to make sure it's got teeth in it. I don't want something that they just, oh, well, I'll just go get another ATV. Don't care. Move on.
I think they'll go as far as they can. They want to see the town put in a position where they have to stop. Let's take another look at this.
I like the New London's fines, but I'd like to see them, it be more.
For the audience, can you
Oh, yes.
discuss that?
In New London's, what is it, ordinance there?
Is this?
it
in
says
the
right-
newspaper? The newspaper article that's on page 18? What's that?
Under the city ordinance, the riders face a $1,000 fine for the first offense of illegal riding, a $1,500 for the second, $2,000 for the third, and any subsequent offense. Passengers are and any subsequent events, period. Passengers are subject to $100 fine. I'd like to see those doubled,
There's
if
similar.
possible.
I'm sorry, there are similar provisions in the Wyndham one, which the town manager pointed out is done by our town attorney's office, $1,500 and $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, similar to that. In the London one. I think there were parts of each of these that I kind of liked.
Mhm.
I think the one that I looked at the most closely was probably the Norwich one. Just because it had some items in it that I thought was of interest.
Could I ask a question?
Mhm.
On page 28, under the Wyndham one. In that last paragraph, kind of halfway down, it says, if the town confiscates an all-terrain vehicle, a motorcycle, moped, or motorized go-kart used to violate this ordinance, it shall conduct the procedure set forth in Connecticut GCS 54-33G and sell it at a municipal conduct. But I'm wondering, you were talking about due process. Is that I wonder if that's the due process you're talking about?
I think so. And I also talked, before I came down to this meeting this afternoon, I talked to our evidence officer, because ultimately that's the person, if we do seize things, falls under her purview, and she's the one that has to make sure that we've done it properly in accordance with the laws, but also that if there's a mechanism to return it, that we do it properly, because it is in our care and custody. I think that's part of it, but I would certainly be open to a discussion with the town attorney's office to better understand that, make sure that if this were to be something that we enacted here in Groton, that we're certainly instructing our officers to do it properly and make sure it's in accordance with those provisions.
So, my question is, do we want to ask the town attorney to write up a proposal?
With input, like,
Yeah.
I think the police department
from
would probably work
from the
directly with
police
them.
department. Yeah,
Am I missing anything that you've seen?
Would-
One that had about signage at the gas stations.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Section number 2. Talk about having gas dealers that put signs up.
feeling of unauthorized vehicles prohibited in English and in Spanish, at least 1 inch of height. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. In our case, I know during the investigation, we were able to determine that there was some refueling of the vehicles involved. At an establishment in the town.
How would that affect somebody who's trailered their ATVs and going from point A to point B and wants to refuel them? Would that affect him or her?
If it's used for an illegal purpose, it might, but I mean, I think, clearly if somebody's using their dirt bikes and they're maybe going on a property that they're authorized to have them on, then they need to refuel them somewhere. I don't think that. It may be hard to distinguish one from the other. But if they're riding their bikes into the gas station and they
Definitely
shouldn't be
that-
on the road, that's clearly a little bit different.
Clearly, okay. So I think trailered would be
Yeah.
something
Just
that
make it
wouldn't,
clear,
you wouldn't
yeah.
be clear that if it's
Mm.
trailered, you're not doing anything. Could this affect somebody's actual driver's license? If they have one, or affect their permit or the ability to get a driver's license?
It depends. It depends if they don't have one. I mean, if they don't have motorcycle endorsements and they're riding, then that certainly would affect it. The ordinance itself, the way ordinances work, if it were to be adjudicated in Superior Court, which is the only mechanism for these to be adjudicated. So when you write a violation of a town ordinance, it goes on a state infraction, which goes to the Superior. If they plead not guilty, it goes to the Superior Court. There could be some connection there, but generally,
It's above our pay grade.
yeah, probably.
Okay.
Generally, probably not. But there's reciprocity. Like if you get a ticket here in Connecticut, it has you don't pay it. It could have an effect in another state because of reciprocity. Whether an ordinance does that, if they didn't fulfill their obligations under the state statute that covers the ordinance, maybe. I know that's a long convoluted answer. I'm not sure that.
But
they
you
really
could check
explained
with the attorneys when you talk to them
Yeah.
about what options there are, yeah.
Questions or?
I'm good.
So our takeaway on this is, Manager Burt will request the town attorney to draft an ATV ordinance. Consulting with the town of Groton Police Department to include fines, sale of gasoline to ATV riders, anything else specific that we want to.
He can reach out directly to them, yeah.
Okay. Right,
You might want to mark up, so you know, kind of start, look at the one that you know they've already approved and then go from there.
Is that, who would that be? Which,
I would go with Rich. He wrote, believe he wrote this one.
the last item on our agenda is 2023-430 Town Hall Annex Fire Training Center. The town of Groton had previously worked with the town or with the Groton Fire Association. I'm sorry, let me start that again. The town of Groton has previously been working with the Groton Fire Officers Association Incorporated, GFOA, to establish a training center at the Town Hall Annex property. The town's Planning and Zoning Commission approved plans for the project. A question on insurance requirements as part of the lease came up, but has since been resolved. The Town Council Committee of the whole undertook a goal-setting process on their January 16, 2024 meeting. At that meeting, the issue was referred to the town's Public Safety Committee. Following the January 16, 2024 Committee of the Whole, City of Groton Fire Chief Ted Sargent was contacted. Chief Sargent discussed the Fire Training Center as a subsequent Groton Fire Officer at a subsequent fire officer meeting. The group has decided not to move forward with the training center. The recommendation is no action is anticipated for this agenda item beyond acknowledgement of the wish of the Groton fire officers not to pursue the fire training center. So any questions, comments? Okay, then this will be removed from our agenda after this meeting. Any other, oh, it's a special meeting, so we can't bring up any other business. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Second.
oh, spoke too soon. Town manager, did I need to make a motion to remove the Town Hall Annex Fire Training Center from the agenda?
No, I think we'll just, if you noted in the minutes that,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. So there's a motion on the floor. Motion to adjourn was made by, by Counselor Pacino, seconded by Counselor Merritt. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The motion was 3-0. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
At 5:25, I know.